Welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, some Ghanaians are asking the National Identification Authority to revise its requirement in the acquisition of the National Identification Card. According to them, they do not have the necessary documents needed for the process. Nancy Emefa Jadosi visited a few centers here in Accra. Here is her report.
At the Presbyterian Church here at Abosokan, the process had already begun, with just about 15 people seated waiting for their turn to get registered. But unfortunately for majority of these individuals, just a few of them had the particulars needed.
I haven't been able to register because I do not have any of the documents required. I only have my voter ID.
And about also the intimino. Sound money me Susuna, me cura, me visa, mete media, and also sooner intimino Juma. The legacy me and make it on, and ya dear, you may dear did Hanamon. I will make Hanamon. Yes, met me, my day, maybe for Medina and yes, small cry. Yawana must see a may Ghana card. And a Jayaba. Abaya Mosaji Kunya Ghana Post may cool dubina. Ghana card. At the same time, I have passport.
I am angry because they tell us we cannot use our voter ID. They talk about some GPS. I don't even know what it is. I want government to look at this.
My passport now the bar. Ghana Post me ko share na what me am mati me aba Ghana card. Eti me kakra me kan say mongo ne mamman na sa ID card mpo na ebe yusu a na yentimi yusu
ni ba kaka mimba ni kuni mafi registration no inka ma ke me bia me baby na for me eche ka kwepo ni here ba na ke registration be ni ji me na achole birth certificate here back no here ni bi ni ba nya qualified na kan birth certificate.
I came here to register and they demanded my birth certificate. I have never owned one. They wouldn't even take my voter ID and other documents. There are too many requirements, and I would urge the president to take a look at it again.
Kuni American money. Me ka for me man ko no te fi oten ni bad much man bi akashi afọ me money no. Fi na kan minister no mama na e. Me Ghanaian pepe Jimmy.
Try dey be. Because I must say I say o kan dosun. Say your munya birth certificate.
They've been saying things I don't even understand. They refuse to take my voter ID and ask me to bring my GPS address, and I don't have it. This is frustrating.
So me say we are sure say nipa be with me here. So my aban on share here. It's too difficult.
At the Methodist Church here also at Abosokan, the materials needed for the process had not arrived as at 10 a.m. Even though the officials will not speak to me on record, they say that they needed just 2 of their materials to be able to carry out the process successfully. At the time of our departure, they had just begun with the manual process of taking the details of these residents. So even though there are those that say they do not have the necessary documents because they didn't know about them. So for instance, you're supposed to provide your birth certificate or a passport plus your Ghana Post GPS. Some say they didn't know about this, but I have been able to meet 2 individuals who have these materials ready. I want to find out from them what exactly they did differently from the others. Maybe I have to start with from my left, Mr. Dixon, right?
Dixon, yeah.
Okay. So you have all your documents being important.
Because I see I'm a voter's ID card and I'm a national birth set and now see I'm in the buy. Make us see I make us idea, me no Macassa, I'm not feeling my BB, I'm not feeling forms in BBM, and I see I make say a good chapter channel.
What's me your Ghana Post GPS neso?
Meet me a bit divine. Me yeah, bear 1 month.
Then a prompt to sell.
Meti say you baby register agi national identification card no. And I'm feeling say my baby because me again and no church mama who say we again and nko a o qualify say so baby. Say udru babia utimi ekyerɛ sɛ woyɛ Ghana ni nti na me force ya sɛ menya saa nneɛma bi sɛ manya ne nyina akora sɛ metimi nya emu bia me de ba metimi register.
So basically what he is saying is that for the Ghana Post GPS, he did it a month ago when he had the announcement of the registration for the national identification cards. So he decided to download the app and he has everything. So he has been able to provide his birth certificate, his Ghana Post GPS, and all the necessary documents needed for this registration. All he said he's waiting for is for his picture to be taken and uploaded so that he gets his card today if everything is ready. But let me also find out from you, Ma, you also have all your documents ready?
Yeah.
Which documents do you have?
I have only the birth set.
Okay. You have your Ghana Post GPS?
Yeah, I have it.
So when did you get all of these?
I had this about last year, September. That's this one. I was having some, but they said it was not in the system. So I have to do another one. So I did.
Okay. And the Ghana Post GPS, all of them, when did you do it and why did you take the steps?
The Ghana Post GPS, when they started the Ghana Post GPS, when they brought it into the system, then I did that.
Okay. So have you also been able to fill all your forms?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is left for you?
I'm left to take the picture, then you do it for me.
Okay. So, but so far the process has been okay for you?
Yeah, I've gone through all the process. So I'm waiting for the picture to be captured and then.
Let me find out from you.
So some success, some not so successful. We're going to do some public education work right here in the studio. I have here Assistant Commissioner of Immigration, Francis Pamdeti, who is Head of Corporate Affairs for the National Identification Authority. Mr. Pamdeti, thank you very much for coming to the studio. So we're just going to give you this platform to do a lot of public education because it appears that has not really gone down well with people. Let's talk about the requirement. Those who were not successful with the process today are saying that they want the requirement revised. What is the response of the NIA?
We are a creature of statutes. I mean, it's the law that set us up, and we also have a mandate to execute. It's also the same law. So we cannot deviate from what the law tells us to do. Now, it's important to understand that this particular exercise is about a national identity register. And the law requires that that register must be populated with personal information of Ghanaians living in Ghana and abroad and foreigners who are legally resident in the country. To do that, you must start with a mass registration exercise, and that is what we've embarked on. Now, the requirements for that register is basically your name, your personal details, details of your parentage, your mom and your dad, where they come from and all that, the district where you come from, your phone numbers, your email address, the Ghana Post GPS, your next of kin, the names of your spouses, languages you speak, your level of education, and then there are what we call state-issued ID cards. And those state-issued ID cards are also required for our harmonization and data integration purposes in the future. Okay. So you'll be required to bring a driver's license if you have one, a voter ID card if you have one, a Senate ID card if you have one.
All of these together at the same time?
At the same time, that's if you have them.
Okay.
We know not everybody has those documentation, but those are not the requirements.
Okay.
The requirements set out in the law is one, a birth certificate or a passport, a valid passport, or a certificate of acquired citizenship. I mean, there are some foreigners who have gone through the legal process to become Ghanaians. They would have to bring a certificate of naturalization or registration.
Okay.
Now, for those who do not have these, I mean, without these, you cannot register, even if you have the Senate ID card or the voter ID card or those other cards.
But that's the point that these people raise, for example.
So I need to explain that for those who do not have the requirements, the law has made provision. Because the law is mindful of the fact that not everybody has the documentation. So a relative who has already registered and been issued with the card can vouch for you under oath. What it means is that this relative is saying that I know you, indeed you do not have any of the requirements needed, but you are a Ghanaian, you are eligible to register, and therefore I'm vouching for you. Now that is done before a commissioner for oath who is present at the center.
Okay.
When that is done, then you can go ahead and process. So there's no excuse about you not being able to process because
you don't have the required document.
Now,
well,
there are some people
but
who do not.
Sorry to interrupt you here. Those who don't have it, who speak to us, are saying that they needed it revised. Now, you say that it's your mandate to do so. It is by law, but the law is made for the people, and when the response comes,
it's important that we also appreciate when a law is passed. For that law to be reviewed, it must go to a certain process. We are not the ones to review it on our own. We'll be breaking the law.
Okay.
Now, for us, it's important to educate the public on what they have to do, what the options are. If you do not have any of the documents, you either have a relative who has registered, vouch for you, or you have two persons who have already registered and are in the community, vouch for you. Not just any two persons. The law has spelled out the governing body is authorized to give a list of persons who can do that. Now, in that list, you have professional teachers, including, headmasters, head teachers, principals who are serving or retired. The law also talks about public servants and civil servants who are serving or retired can vouch for you. The law talks about security services personnel who are serving or retired, immigration, police, fire service, prisons, DNI, customs, etc. All those people can vouch for you. It also talks about the clergy, or the priest, the catechist. They can also vouch for you, and then an imam. He also doesn't leave out the politicians. It talks about a present or past member of parliament, an assembly member, or a unit committee member. All those persons can vouch, even a chief. Once the chief is gazetted, that person can vouch for you. So if you do not have a relative, you can have two persons from this category.
So if you don't have a relative who has registered, you can have two persons who live in the community where you live, who know you, who can vouch for you. You can have the pastor if you go to church, who can vouch for you. You can have an imam if you are a Muslim who can vouch for you. You can have a police officer, you can have an immigration officer, you can have people who work within the government agencies to vouch for you.
Absolutely.
Do you get the sense then that really that information has not trickled down properly? And this boils down to the NIA's public engagement, public education, which hasn't really...
even from the footage we just watched, obviously some people have heard the information. It's a continuous process. Education, sometimes people would sit back until we get to the 11th hour, they don't really pay attention to what you're saying. I believe we cannot stop educating. We'll continue educating, we'll continue providing information. I believe as now that registration has started and people are taking a more keen interest in going ahead with the registration, they would get the information that they need. But the information is out there on social media, on the regular channels. I think some advice have been brought to your end, and so the public will be duly educated.
Okay. Regarding the digital
GPS,
address,
yes.
the GPS address, why is that so crucial? Why is this so important?
The digital address is crucial because the Ghana Post has put that out there. We've had issues with identifying and locating persons in this country. It's been a major problem that certain key institutions have struggled with. For instance, the banks have challenges with their inability to identify and locate people. Ghana Post has come up with something that can help us this time around. It doesn't matter whether you're in a kiosk. It doesn't matter whether you are living in a shack. It doesn't matter where you are living. Every part of this country has been graded with a certain address code. So the law makes that one of the requirements. So we cannot take out that portion because some people do not have it. What would urge people to do is that Ghana Post has recruited some NAPCO officials to go around and help people generate the address. They also have made their various post offices in the districts and in the regions, they've trained them to help people generate the address. Some of our officials, they also have been given some knowledge on how to help people generate the address.
Okay.
We also expect that this being a national project, those of us who have smartphones and can help our neighbors generate should freely do so. And it is something new. It is true that some people still are not sure on how to go about it, but there's enough help out there.
But then if you don't have all these details and you have someone vouching for you, which digital address are you going to use? So I don't have anybody. I don't have a document, but I have Pamdeti. He's my friend. I take Pamdeti to the center and I say, Pamdeti is vouching for me. He does so. Are they going to use your GPS address?
What Pamdeti is basically doing is that Pamdeti is helping you qualify to register. Now
but
you
part
sit,
of the qualification is for me
yes,
to bring them
so you
GPS.
sit, when you sit before the registration official and you are unable to provide the information you need, you have to go back and get that information. But the Commissioner for Oaths form, which has been signed by the voucher, is with you, which you can bring back to have the process completed.
Okay, so essentially this is what happens. So for those, and I think that we should make this information available to the people. So for those who don't have the document to do the registration by themselves, you need to get somebody who is vouching for you. Now the person who is vouching for you would vouch for you until the point where you're given a Commissioner of Oaths document. Yes. But you have to go back home and generate a GPS address. Absolutely. And come back.
It's just like going to the center, you've been vouched for, you are asked where do you come from, you mention a name, you are asked which district is that, you don't know.
You have to go back and get the information.
You need to find the information from maybe somebody who knows it. Okay. The registration official cannot hazard a guess because every district is in the system and there are codes to the districts. So if it's personal information about ourselves, I think that Ghana in the past has lagged behind when it comes to issues of identification, national identification. Our neighbors around us have ID cards. The Francophone countries have ID cards. We haven't had that. But this is a fine opportunity for us as a country to have a certain identity which cuts across all age brackets.
That everybody agrees to, and everybody thinks it's a great idea. But then there are the things that makes it, the bottlenecks are the issues that we need to look at now. Now, one thing that we know also in Ghana is that to be able to generate the digital address, you need a phone that has that is internet. You need a phone that's connected. There are several, there are several people in the villages who neither have these phones nor have access to internet. I mean, even internet to study, they don't have it. So how are we going to manage that?
Ghana Post has what we call offline devices.
Okay.
Now those offline devices don't have to be connected to an internet. They can still generate the address for you. In fact, I know as we speak, they have this app which is an offline device which helps people generate the address. Ghana Post, I believe, will also have to step up the education in respect of how to generate the address, even when you are in an area where there's poor or low internet connectivity.
I mean, if that's possible, then that message has to be sent across properly.
So we would urge, that's why in our education we're saying that if you don't have anybody to help you generate it and you cannot generate it yourself, go to the nearest post office in your community and officials there will help you generate the address.
Well, if you don't have the details, if you don't have a phone that is connected to the internet, if you don't have internet in your neighborhood, they say go to the nearest post office. Is that the only option available, really?
Under the circumstance, I think either you can download it yourself, a friend can help you download it, or you go to the Ghana Post officials to help you. Those are the options available.
Yeah, I mean, the options are quite limited, yet this is a crucial part of the requirement. Isn't that being unfair to Ghanaians?
I'm not in a position to say whether it is fair or not. For us as NIA, ours is to make sure that the law which we are supposed to enforce or to implement, we go by it very strictly. You'll be the very first persons to attack us if we do not follow or comply with the law.
Very well. So I have this card here in my hand, and this card is supposed to be the first national identity card. It's supposed to be the first ID card. I don't know if we can zoom in on it, so you have an idea. And I believe that most of us in our homes have this card. I mean, some of us have this card. If you have this card, what is your fate?
If you have this card, what it is that this particular card has, I mean, when this card was being issued, the information we took was limited considering what we are taking now. It took just 4 fingerprints. This is a 2D barcode card. And what we are issuing now is a smart card which has multiple functionalities. It's also an ECOWAS card which can enable you travel across the country into West Africa, into the West African
without a passport.
Without a passport.
Oh wow!
And so, what we have now is fairly different, and it's also compliant with ICAO standards. Okay. ICAO standards require that 10 fingerprints are taken. In the age when this was done, we didn't have what do you call it? Emails, the kind of phones we have now and the numbers we have now. We didn't have at the time. Our mandate is to ensure that data that we collect is accurate and has integrity, because other institutions would have to rely on the data we collect. So it stands to reason that what we are doing should be at the highest level and must be compliant with all standards. And that is why we are doing a new one. Now, some of these cards have expired, but this one, like you're seeing, is quite worn out. I'm not sure how often the person used it, but it's a 2D barcode card, and would urge this person to come to the center and provide information.
So basically what it means is that even if you have this, you need a new one.
Yes.
You need to tender this in basically and then get a new one.
Yes. The information in our system, some people, it's just a limited number, a little over 1 million Ghanaians have the card.
Okay.
Most people don't have the card. Now we have their information in our system. So when you go now to register, I must add this, that some people in the pilot phase haven't received their cards because of a few issues, which I think I need to throw light on. If, for instance, in registering for this card, you provided details about yourself, for instance, your name and your date of birth. Now, you come for this system and you indicate another name or another date of birth. Now, what the system will do, because we are taking your biometrics, it first checks in our database whether you have any record there. If there is, it pulls the record out and it compares the record with what you are providing. If there's an anomaly,
it will show up
and will tell that no, this person said he was born on this
Is that
day.
an offense?
It's no, what it means is that you have to prove with a gazette, a legal document, why you have changes to your name, etc. Without that proof, the system will freeze the card, and we now have to go into the back end to try and release the card. So I would urge our citizens that this exercise may be unusual in the sense of the requirements we are taking, but these requirements, let us go through the fatigue of going through this process. I believe at the end of the day, come 31st March, when we are done with Central Region, Ghana would be the better of having the system in place. As we speak, this card has, apart from the fact that it's an international card which can enable you travel, it has a 148 kilobyte capacity chip on it. Now this chip has 14 applets, basically 14 spaces, which are rented out or can be rented out. National Health Insurance, for instance, has agreed that as soon as we are done with the registration, it will stop issuing cards and have its members information on the Ghana card. SNET is also agreeing to that. As soon as we are done, they would also put their information on an applet. What it means is that these institutions will stop producing cards, and that will save Ghana a lot of money. And I believe other institutions that think and they'll find the applets useful to come on board would also save themselves.
Why didn't the law make it mandatory? Since the law is making it mandatory for people to get something as, you know, Ghana Post address, why didn't it make it mandatory so that all other state agencies will be locked onto this Ghana card?
I think that the framers of the law also want to make room for people to think through things and take a decision as an institution on which way to go.
I see.
Now, the card has mandatory uses, and it talks about, for purposes of identifying yourself to any institution, you must present the Ghana card. So if you want to apply for a passport, you need to present the Ghana card. Any kind of financial transaction, be it banks, insurance, pensions, etc., you need to provide the Ghana card. Even if you want to register as a voter, you need to present the Ghana card to identify yourself. And land transactions, any kind of interaction or business dealings with ministries, departments and agencies will require you to present the Ghana card. So if you do not have it after we are done, it will be quite difficult for you to conduct social, economic and political activities in the country.
One of the key things, and we're wrapping up this conversation, one of the key things that has come up lately is a kidnapping trend, what we're calling the kidnap scare. People have said that there are lots of foreigners who have come into the country, especially those from our neighboring African countries who have come into the country. How is the system able to check some of these things? You said that those who have naturalized can get the card.
I mean, it's good you're asking this. We have what we call the Foreigner Identification Management System. It is a system which takes care of foreigners. This system started in 2012. So foreigners are issued with a different card. The difference between their card and ours is that on the face of the card, you have non-citizen inscribed on the card in red. They pay for their card. It's $120 per annum. Every renewal is $60. And In fact, that is why we are urging our compatriots to be vigilant during the process. Because some may want to get the Ghana card so that they don't pay for their card. Their card started in 2012, so they've been renewing their cards. Without the card, you can't have a resident permit or stay legally in the country. So our idea of having registration in the various localities is for community members to register in the community, identify
so they can identify those who are doing the registration, and if there's someone who doesn't qualify,
they can point out such persons.
I see. Well, I hope that this works. So essentially, I'd like for you to just speak to the people who have been queuing up to get their cards and those who have concerns. What do you want them to take away from this conversation that we've had today?
The National Identification Authority would want everybody to be registered. In fact, it is when the identity register is populated that would say we have succeeded in our endeavor of registering our compatriots, and that is our utmost desire. And so we would urge persons who go to our centers to register to be patient. If at any point they will have to wait for their card, they should just be patient and support the effort. I think Ghana will be better off, or Ghana will win, if this exercise goes through smoothly. Come 31st March 2020, everybody in this country, or a significant chunk of our nationals, have a card and can identify themselves. There are so many people in the country who are anonymous and don't have any form of ID whatsoever. And I think this is a fine opportunity for such persons to have something to show who they are and where, and the fact that they are Ghanaians and they are entitled to some of the privileges open to Ghanaian nationals. Interesting.
Well, if you have not yet had your Ghana card, if you've not yet had your Ghana card, we believe that this is an opportunity for you to get through it. I remember the last time that they did this, there was those of us who had they gave us a piece of paper and they said that it would be ready. I don't know if with that piece of paper right now, I can also walk up to any of the centers and say, well, I was already, or I'm already in the system, and perhaps provide my GPS address, and that's it.
No, there's a form you have to fill, and the slip will not provide all the information you need. So you get to the system, get to the registration center, pick a form. The online portal will be up very soon, so people can even download the form at home, fill it before they get to the center. That would fast track the process.
Certainly. Certainly. I'll be having this conversation with Pamdeti, Francis Pamdeti. He's Assistant Commissioner of Immigration. He's also Head of Corporate Affairs at the National Identification Authority. It almost looks like National Insurance Authority. National Identification Authority, that's the NIA, and the Ghana card registration is ongoing. So you basically know what you need. You need your digital address, you need a passport, you need a birth certificate, or either birth certificate or a passport, and then you can go in there and get your Ghana card. If you don't have any of these, you have the opportunity to let a relative vouch for you, or you can have two persons who live in the same community with you vouch for you. You can have a police officer, I mean anybody who works within government agencies, police officer, a soldier, an immigration person, a doctor, anybody who works within government can vouch for you as well. But you cannot get through the system without a GPH, a Ghana Post digital address. You need to have it. Mr. Pamdeti, thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure.
And hopefully this public education system has helped a bit. But going forward, they say they will put in more to get you all informed.